Good evening, friends, and welcome to a live stream with CrimeTime and DutyRon and Ed Wallace. Today, Christopher Preciado found guilty on all three capital murder charges. That's the murder of Savannah Soto, baby Fabian, and the baby's father, Matthew Guerra. And this happened in under 2 hours. Some say it was just about 2, some say it was under 2. But the jury got the case, Ed, and boom, within 2 hours or so, they had a verdict. Your thoughts on where we are here today?
Well, there was no doubt in my mind that this was going to play out this way, based upon the electronic evidence, the video evidence, as well as the forensic ballistic evidence and the firearm and so forth. What I can say is that I was very disappointed in the news coverage of this trial, and how key pieces of information, because this wasn't live streamed, were kind of kept from the public or not even talked about. I'm doing all kinds of research on the news stations that were covering this, trying to get the forensic evidence, right? What did the medical examiner say? And they barely scratched that. They just, it was like they touched on what happened to the baby from the medical examiner. But, I was trying to get to the details of the gunshot wounds, trajectories, paths of the bullets through the victims, all of this stuff. And they just glossed right over.
Yeah. It was frustrating, to say the least, to cover this trial because of all the restrictions that were put, not only on the media, but the lack of the media covering all the details that we like to pay attention to. And again, you and I were back and forth with this, but let's take a listen to Judge Jennifer Pena as she reads the guilty verdicts in open court. This was just a short time ago in San Antonio.
I find the defendant, Christopher Preciado, guilty of the offense of capital murder as charged in count 1.
First on 4, Christopher Preciado found guilty on all counts of capital murder.
And for those of you in the chat, I'm trying to get the audio levels right. Let me know if this audio is good for you. Again, the news and the feed inside the courtroom was horrible. I got to say, it was like on a scale of 1 to 10, it was a 2. So let us know. And also, please let us know where you're watching, city, state. And if you're new here, let us know as well. We'd like to say hello to all the new folks.
For the deaths of pregnant teen Savannah Soto, her boyfriend Matthew Guerra, along with their unborn son Fabian. That means Preciado will now spend life in prison. The families of Soto and Guerra talking directly to Preciado after today's verdict.
And your next stop is a penitentiary. And I believe with all my heart that'll be your hell here on earth before you go to hell, where you spend all eternity.
Me and my cousin planned together to raise our children, and she did not get to do that with me because you took her from us.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jonathan Martinez. News 4 was the first to report the guilty verdict this afternoon. The jury taking just about 2 hours to decide Preciado's fate. Tonight, we have a team of reporters on this story. Ethan Trejo has been following the story and has more on how things unfolded today inside the courtroom. But first, we start with News 4 San Antonio's Destiny Fuller, who spoke with the emotional families of the victims. Destiny.
Welcome, Naya. Welcome.
Jonathan, I spoke with the family of Savannah Soto outside of the courtroom right after Chris Preciado was found guilty on all charges. They had a wide range of emotions, telling me that this is exactly what they were hoping for, and now they're taking in this huge moment.
From tears of heartbreak to a celebration. It's justice that the families of Savannah Soto and Matthew Guerra and their unborn child say they've waited years for.
This is for Savannah, Matthew, Fabian. We're not going to stop fighting. We're all here. We've all been supported since day one.
21-year-old Christopher Preciado, emotionless, as he was convicted on capital murder charges. He was also sentenced to life in prison without parole. The family directly addressing Preciado through broken sobs.
I'm sure you know, how great the impact that our family was by this. You, your mom, and your dad.
You took something precious from us. You took my granddaughter, my great grandson. You will never see him again, but I'm glad that they found him guilty.
Their words filling the courtroom, reminding Preciado of the lives cut short and one that never had a chance to start.
You took their unborn son. He didn't even have a chance to live. Now one day I will talk for my cousin and her boyfriend and their unborn son. They did not deserve what you done to them.
The parents of Savannah too emotional to speak, though Matthew's father addressed the court, telling everyone his son was a gift.
I didn't think my family to survive this tragedy. Even though I know he's not physically here anymore. I know he's still here with me.
Offering Christopher no forgiveness as he heads to prison.
The Bible speaks that vengeance is his, and your next stop is a penitentiary. And I believe with all my heart that will be your hell here on earth before you go to hell.
The family tells me that they are taking today as a win, but they are waiting for Preciado's Father's Day in court. Ramon Preciado is accused of helping his son hide the bodies. The family tells me they'll keep fighting until then. Live from downtown, Destiny Fuller, News 4 San Antonio.
Destiny, thank you for that. Let's go ahead and continue our team coverage tonight with Ethan Trejo, who joins us live tonight. He was inside the courtroom all day. He's here to explain how this last pivotal day all played out. Ethan.
Jonathan, good evening. After 7 days of evidence and testimony, both sets of attorneys made their claims as to why or why not the jury should deem Christopher Preciado, the man who killed Savannah Soto and Matthew Guerra, as guilty. The defense began by arguing that because of the lack of DNA and witnesses of the crime itself, there's too much speculation regarding the circumstances of the crime.
That's not how our system works. That's guesswork with a life sentence attached. There can be no rush to judgment here.
While the prosecution followed, hammering hard on the motive and actions confirmed to have happened after the murder, which they believe reinforce his guilt.
You cannot rob someone in self-defense. The mugger doesn't get to claim self-defense as they're robbing you and you put up a fight. And they kill you. Oh man, I'm sorry, I was just defending myself as I was stealing his wallet.
But the trial ultimately came down to the jury's decision.
Verdict form. We, the jury, find the defendant Christopher Preciado guilty of the offense of capital murder as charged with count 1.
With those 3 capital murder charges, Preciado has now been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Reporting.
So, Ed, it happened all very quick today. The family said on camera that they were happy with the outcome. I know that they were very upset about a year or so ago when the district attorney decided not to seek the death penalty in this case, because if there was a case that was needed to have the death penalty applied to it, it was this one, and especially for baby Fabian, who was full term. She was past 9 months pregnant, ready to be induced, and this savage, Christopher Preciado, along with his family, his mother and his father, and I hope his father is really shitting a brick tonight, because he got a preview. He was in the audience for most of this trial. I think he just missed the first day or two, but the mother was there for every day, and they got escorted out the back of the courtroom. Ed, your thoughts on this?
Well, I feel that it was a just verdict. I do feel that he was eligible for the death penalty, and I guess it's this particular prosecutor who doesn't like the death penalty. But surely this type of crime is suitable for death penalty for the defendant. But they didn't go for it. And as you said, the family was upset initially, but they seem in their statements to have accepted it and are good with it. But may I just step back a little bit and give some comments about what I saw from this trial and the courtroom here that is so different than the way we do things up here.
Yeah, absolutely, Ed.
Yeah, some portions of the trial I saw the detective, the lead detective, who is not, from what I can understand, a forensics person, was able to give opinion evidence about bloodstain pattern and about gunshot wounds and ballistic trajectories and how a gun was potentially held when it was discharged into the victim. Okay. That is called opinion evidence, right? What was there. Now, normally, opinion evidence can only be given by a declared expert, and the declaration of expert status comes from the judge. So what normally happens in our jurisdiction is the prosecutor in this case would have to lay a foundation that the witness is an expert in these disciplines. And so that would mean giving, the witness would have to give education, experience, training, certifications in these specific areas. And then the prosecutor would then ask the judge for permission to have the witness declared an expert.
Right.
And then the judge would then ask the defense, okay, would you like to voir dire? Which would mean the defense gets to question the witness, and then upon questioning, the defense could say, I object to this witness being declared an expert, or I accept it. Okay. Right. I didn't see any of that.
Unless it happened behind closed doors.
Yeah. I mean, again, the coverage here was so bad. I mean, it's obvious there was cameras in the courtroom, right, and they gave the feed later after the day's testimony to the various news agencies, but those agencies didn't show those areas that occurred before the testimony.
Right. And all of that was missing in the coverage by the media as well. And, look, the media can only do what they can do and what they're provided with. And we were just, you and I back and forth, we were just like, wait a minute. And maybe things are different.
Yeah. There could have been a lot of things behind the scenes that the media didn't report. And right, that's why it's so important to allow live streaming. Okay. Yeah. I don't see how that would have hurt this case in any way, shape, or form. Okay. Yeah. That said, even the end, even right here after the verdict. Okay. I've never seen impact statements given from the audience, given from the gallery. You usually have a podium, and you allow the person that's going to give the victim impact statement to come up, give their name and information for the record, and speak directly to the judge.
Yeah, okay? It was bizarre
that they made them stay out there. And look at the number of court officers that were in that courtroom at the end.
They were protecting the Preciados. That's the sick part, is that Ramon, that fat bastard, was sitting right behind the whole row of those court officers, and his wife. They both, and listen, I hold back nothing when it pertains to some savage beast like that. And him and his wife are savage beasts. They took these 3 human beings, a baby, full-term baby inside the womb of Savannah, and they helped their son conceal these dead corpses.
Right. Right.
I hold nothing back on these. These people are just the lowest of low. And these people, including grandma right here of Matthew Guerra, had to stand up because of the safety of Ramon Preciado. Something's wrong. Something is backwards in the 290th Circuit in Bexar County. This courthouse protected the perps who helped facilitate this crime over the victims' families. That, in my eyes, is fucked up. Excuse my French. That is so effed on so many different levels that it makes me just want to throw up when I see this. Let's listen to Grandma. This is Matthew Guerra's grandmother. She had to stand up in her seat. She couldn't go up to a microphone, couldn't go up to a podium, and had to give this very short but powerful victim impact statement. Let's take a listen.
Matthew Guerra was my grandson, and even though it was stated in the trial that there were no witnesses, no fingerprints, no DNA. It's all recorded in heaven. And the great judge, no respect to the judge here, but the greatest judge in heaven has it all recorded. And I don't know if the Preciado family is in here, but they need to prepare to meet that final judge, who there is no excuses because everything is recorded. And Matthew had a heart of gold, and I miss him very much every day. But I know I'll see him someday.
So sad that they did that to this family. And like you said, Ed, they all had to stand up where they were seated. And the Preciados had that wall of protection. Just insane. What is your guys' thoughts in the chat? What does everybody feel about it? How about the people down in San Antonio that are in the chat? The folks from Bexar County. There's people in the chat, Ed, that are saying, welcome to Bexar County. It's backwards. That's a slap in the face to the family. And,
well, you know, I mean, and just think about it. He did this to rob. And what do you get? Some cash, a couple of gold rings, which he sold to somebody who pawned them. 3 lives lost. Okay. And you could say what you want about their lives. Nobody deserves this. Okay. Nobody deserves this. No. And he used his mother's gun, and then his parents helped try to cover up the crime.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that say about our society? What does it say? I mean, about how we're raising our kids. Okay. Why are we not teaching these lessons that, you know, for every consequence, there's, you know, for every action, there's a consequence. Are you ready to deal with that consequence? And you could teach it. Trust me, you could be the best parent in the world and you could teach it to your children. But sometimes that message isn't getting through.
Right.
And the kids are going to do what they're going to do. All right. And it's of no fault of the parents. But when you get a call from your kid and say, hey, I just killed these two people. I'm in their car with these bodies.
Come and
help.
Yeah.
And you go and do that.
And the prosecutor showed how they helped them, Ed. They showed them on video, all of them leaving the house, you know, the mother and father leaving the house, going to meet him at the scene of the crime, or where he had these bodies. They helped him, and then they all returned together.
Yeah. So you know what the help would have been? You're the parent, you pick up the phone, you call 911, and you say, your son just confessed to me about doing this, and I'm going to meet him here. Please be there.
Right. Yeah.
And he's armed.
Yeah. Yes, we're actually, and thank you to whoever just sent that over to us, me on Instagram. I saw it. Fox 5 here in New York is reporting, and it's not official. It's just their reporting. Sources state that Long Island serial killer Rex Heuermann is expected to plead guilty in a plea deal to the 7 murders that he stands accused of committing. So that's big news. Thank you for that super chat. Let's take a listen to the prosecutor. I've never heard of her before. I've never seen her before. Melissa Albin. I think that, you know, obviously, Ed, she did a really good job of presenting this case, because the jury took 2 hours to come to their verdict. And when it happens that fast, they're pretty much, you know, they were on the same page. It didn't take much for them to deliberate. You know, the speed of how everything happened. And also there was reports early on that if he was found guilty, that he would be sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. And that happened all today. So let's take a listen to Melissa outside of court. Again, I apologize for the audio. It's not the greatest, and it's kind of hectic. So let's take a listen to this. I'll leave us on the screen, Ed. I know you're doing research.
I don't think this is for me.
I think it is. Your boss said it was you.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I'll put it behind my back.
She doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, who is this person touching me, and why are they putting a microphone on me?
Did you see how she side-eyed the guy who's clipping the microphone to her, and now he's clipping?
Yeah, I mean, did she agree to this? I mean, the guy just came up and put his newscast microphone on her.
She definitely didn't agree to it, and she was like, "Oh, she had a coffee or some kind of cup in her hand." I think she just thought, "Oh, I'm going to go back to my office and breathe a sigh of relief. I just got 3 guilty verdicts in a major case, a case that
Capital punishment. I mean,
yeah, capital murder, capital punishment." So listen to her. She says, I don't know what to do here. Do you guys ask me questions or do I just talk? This was actually a little comical to see this, not like in a bad way, but it was just like she was as real as it could be that she's just never done this before.
You didn't expect all
I
this,
did not. Yeah, hi. I've never done this before, so is anybody gonna ask me a question or do I just talk?
How do you feel after the verdict today?
Relieved. I know that the family was anticipatory. This was a long time coming, and I'm really grateful that we were able to do this for them and give them some closure.
I just want I don't understand why the death penalty was taken off. There's a death penalty committee that hears these cases and then make a decision. And she basically states that the decision was done by somebody else from a higher authority in the district attorney's office. So they made that decision based on all of the evidence and everything that they have. And I'm sure it's a checklist, right, Ed? So that's why the death penalty was taken off, because they decided that they had a better chance to get a conviction here with life without the possibility of parole. And they also were concerned about appellate issues, correct, Ed?
Well, that's always a possibility. But, I mean, again, it depends on this elected prosecutor and what their feelings are about the death penalty. If they don't like the death penalty, then they're going to dictate from on high, hey, we're not doing the death penalty. Okay. You got to look up cases in Bexar County that this prosecutor had that was death penalty eligible, and they didn't go for it. And then you got to, and is there any that they did go for? And then you can then statistically show that this particular prosecutor doesn't like the death penalty, or they do like the death penalty, depending on how the statistics are.
Yeah. So here's Ben McCoy, who's boots on the ground in San Antonio. He says, DutyRon, the DA Joe Gonzalez, we saw him early on in this, and we talked about him. And many people told us about how he is opposed to the death penalty. If that's the case, he should be removed from office, and the Attorney General should prosecute cases where it's the death penalty. And they did that in New York for my partner, police officer Kevin Gillespie, when he was murdered. Governor George Pataki, Republican governor in New York, instituted the death penalty. He reinstituted it. And at the time, Dennis Bacco was the Attorney General, and Robert Johnston, I believe his name was, the Bronx District Attorney here in Bronx County, New York. He did not want to go for the death penalty. So what did the governor do? He took Robert Johnston off of the case, and he put in Dennis Bacco, who was the Attorney General. The perp wound up hanging himself in Rikers Island. So there was never a trial, but he was going to look at the death penalty for executing a New York City police officer.
And I investigated that hanging in Rikers Island.
Yeah, I took the phone call from the corrections captain and had that notification forwarded to the desk officer on the midnight.
Now, I also had a case in Manhattan. Anthony Sanchez from the 13th precinct was murdered by a millionaire's son, a estranged son, who did a home invasion robbery of his father and his father's fiance, and murdered Officer Sanchez in the staircase when he was trying to flee. And that was at the time we had the death penalty in New York. And the district attorney in Manhattan was Robert Morgenthau, and he refused to prosecute under the death penalty. We got the conviction, and later the perp would die in prison from AIDS.
Wow.
Because he was a heroin user and a junkie and so forth. And, he used some bad needles and he got AIDS and he died in prison of that. But it was a death penalty eligible case and he just wouldn't do it.
It's just crazy to have it on the books and not be able to use it here. Ben McCoy says, DutyRon, the Attorney General of Texas under Texas law cannot take over a prosecution. That's a shame because in New York, it could be done. So state to state, things vary. And in this instance, I believe that if the district attorney didn't want to use the death penalty because they're not supposed to have any biases as it pertains to the law. Their job is to apply the law to the cases appropriately. And,
it's not as if this was a plea deal where they took the death penalty off for a guilty plea.
Right.
All right. So that didn't happen here.
All right, let's listen to her. This is the district attorney.
I did not. Yeah, hi. I've never done this before, so is anybody gonna ask me a question or do I just talk?
How do you feel after the verdict today?
Relieved. I know that the family was anticipatory. This was a long time coming, and I'm really grateful that we were able to do this for them and give them some closure.
Do you think it was really quick, the verdict? How do you feel about being so fast?
Again, relieved. We all worked really hard to make sure that the case was presented as clearly and effectively as it could have been. And I think the jury coming back as quickly as they did means that we did that.
What does this mean for the future? I mean, we're expecting Ramon Preciado and expecting him next in court in May. Do you feel like this will have an impact?
So since the case is still ongoing, we can't really comment on that right now.
And what's your name again?
Melissa Alban.
Can you spell your last name?
Alban.
And Melissa with double S?
2 S's, 1 L.
Melissa, will you guys be refiling charges on Mita Ramos? Will she be reindicted?
Again, because that's still an ongoing consideration, I can't comment on it.
So the question was, will you be refiling charges on Myrta Romano? And she said because it's an active and ongoing investigation, she can't comment on it. I would have to say that they will. Ed, what do you think?
Yes, I believe they should, 100%. And I see the father's going to trial next, and I guess, my dollars to donuts, he's going to take a plea. After what just happened here,
yeah,
he's going to take a plea.
And he had a preview of what it's like being in prison, and he did not like it. We followed this case very closely. He begged and pleaded for lowering his bail so he can get out because of his diabetes, his health conditions, and all of this bullshit that he complained and hemmed and hawed about. And Bexar County lowered his bail and allowed this man to be free. He should not be out walking amongst society. If you think about it, he helped to, harbor a fugitive. He helped to clean up a crime scene that involved 3 human lives. Shouldn't be out. He's a danger to society, especially since he's made those types of decisions to help somebody who he knew, albeit it was his son, somebody who he knew who murdered 3 people. Ed, what do you got up on the screen?
So we got a question here. So did Christopher have his own gun? No, Christopher used his mother's gun, and the mother's gun was recovered in the closet of her bedroom. And ballistics evidence from the car and ballistics evidence from the gun and in the closet matched the gun. So everything was matched. So it was Christopher's gun, as opposed to what Christopher told in his interview that, he wrestled the gun from the decedent and it accidentally shot the decedent and the 2 decedents. And that just didn't happen.
Yeah, so we all know that from this interview here and from news reports and court filings is that Ramon Preciado's trial is set to go off in 2 months, in May, a little bit over 2 months. So let's listen, because she just finished answering the question about Myrta Romano, and she's both cases she couldn't comment on, and that is indicative of that. Yeah, this we will be trying these. Her case will. I would have to say, I bet 50% my pension that they're going to recharge her, and that that case is going to go forward.
Right now.
What does this mean for the future? I mean, we're expecting Ramon Preciado and expecting him next in court in May. Do you feel like this will have an impact?
So since the case is still ongoing, we can't really comment on that right now.
And what's your name again?
Melissa Alban.
Can you spell your last name?
Alban.
And Melissa with double S?
2 S's, 1 L.
Melissa, will you guys be refiling charges on Mita Romanos? Will she be reindicted?
Again, because that's still an ongoing consideration, I can't comment on it right now.
Why don't you brag a little bit about your team? Because you're the front woman here, but you are surrounded by people who have really worked hard and put their heart and soul into this. Tell me a little bit about your people.
Absolutely. Ross Lewis was my partner. He's a secretary at our office, and he worked really hard with me to get this case ready to go. And Richard is our appellate brain. He made sure our jury charge was as appropriate and correct. That's really important for appellate purposes. You know, we wanted to make sure that we had a really clean record because he's going to appeal. And we wanted to make sure that we did everything we could to have the best chance that we can to overcome any kind of appeal or appellate challenges that he brings. And Richard made sure that we did everything that we could and that the record turned out, I think Richard would say, pretty well.
Satisfied with the record.
All right, and then talk to me a little bit about the family, because they were continuously admonished to keep their cool. And it was very difficult for them because they've had 2 years to think about all this and then 2 years away. And you guys repeatedly said, be calm, be cool, even until the last minute. And they did.
This was emotional, you know. We had a lot of people who lost not just 1, not just 2, but 3. So I can only imagine how difficult this was for them. So I think that they overcame very difficult odds and challenges. And I think that as the family of people who were murdered, I think they did a really good job.
I have one more question. Why, if you felt so good about it, why you didn't, or the DA's office didn't go for the death penalty in this case?
He asked her, if you felt so good about this case, why didn't the DA, the district attorney's office, go after the death penalty?
The outcome here is that he is going to go away for the rest of his life. He is going to take his last breath in prison. And that is going to preserve and protect on a lot of appellate issues that we would have to encounter if we did seek the death penalty. So we've eliminated a lot of those issues that could have come up if we would have sought the death penalty. So at the end of the day, he's never going to be released from prison.
So are those the main issues that you took into account to not seek the death penalty?
I wasn't part of the decision.
Who was?
It was before I was assigned to the case. So all I know is that the outcome here is that he is not ever going to be released from prison. And
You
so
can't say that.
A positive outcome. And
Yeah, unless there's some stipulation that it's life without parole with no chances for him to, go through. Who did we see that with recently, Ed? We saw that in one of the cases where it was life without parole without any
possibility
or possibility of going through any processes. But that was part of
that was agreement. That was a plea deal.
It was agreement. There was no agreement.
Yeah, that was Kohlberger. Okay,
Right, thank you.
But here she already gave this to the press, and the defense attorney already told the judge that they're going to appeal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And you don't know how the appeal process is going to play out. So, I mean, she's hopeful that she wins on appellate issues, but you can't say
Not a
definitively.
guarantee. Yeah, nothing's a guarantee. I will say this. Look, Christopher Preciado is a danger to society. He, at 19 years old, made a decision to snuff out the lives of 3 people. And I keep saying 3 because baby Fabian, although wasn't born, was 9 months to term in his mother's womb. And he, as the medical examiner said, died because his mother's life was terminated. So he shot both of them in the head, and it is what
From the back seat.
Yeah, from the back seat. So
Over weed, money, and some rings
to buy car parts.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I think that the family is relieved that we were able to do this.
What is on your heart that we haven't asked you about?
I know I sound like a broken record, but relief.
Did he say?
Why did it skip so much? What the hell is going on here, Ed? Okay. I don't know what's going on.
Calm down there, Ron. Calm down. That mouse is moving crazy.
Yeah, it's my keyboard. I hit it twice and then it did it like 15 times. All right, here we go.
So I think that is a positive outcome, and I think that the family is relieved that we were able to do this.
What is on your heart that we haven't asked you about?
What is on your heart that we haven't asked you about?
What kind of questions are these from the press? What is on your heart? What can you brag about your co-counsels? I mean, what is this? I've never seen questions like that from a reporter.
Yeah, this is all seemed very amateurish, but look, she admitted that she's never been involved, this district attorney, in a case like this, and never did a press conference. She's never done a press conference. So she could be early on in her career. I don't know. But at the end of the day, that is a bizarre, what is on your heart? I mean, this is their job. There's nothing in the heart about it, but let's hear what she has to say.
I know I sound like a broken record, but relief. This was an emotional, long trial. We all worked really hard, and not just the 3 of us here. We have a whole team of other people, our advocates, our investigators, other prosecutors who weighed in on things. So it was a team effort, and I think that it reflects, how seriously our office takes these kinds of cases.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was that. Yeah, they do things different over here, and people are saying it's the Bexar County way or this is the Texas way.
I don't know. I got family in San Antonio too. I have 2 first cousins. My late aunt and my late uncle, lived there for after he got back from Vietnam because he was an Air Force vet. But wow, I mean, some other things too here. I gotta say. Again, it's so different, man. It's like night and day different than what we've seen in other parts of the country and here. And it's a pet peeve of mine, folks. I can't stand the term closure. There is no such thing as closure. I don't know who in the psychological world or therapists or social whatever. I don't know who made up that term, but there is no such thing as closure. You never get closure from something like this. What you do is you learn to live with it. Right. And it hurts. And things like this is going to hurt, and it's going to hurt every time the anniversary comes up, every time a birthday is going to come up, all the date of the incident comes up, and it's going to hurt. Okay, so there's no such thing as closure. You just learn to deal with it and move on. And in some cases, you use it like the Petitos use it. Gabby's parents use it, and you create a foundation and you try to help others. and you turn something evil into something beautiful.
Ben McCoy, who is from San Antonio, from the local area, says, DutyRon, she's been in the DA's office. She's been an ADA for 9 years and is assigned to the DA's Civil Rights and Public Integrity Unit. Well, that may explain why she was like, I've never done this before, because this is probably the biggest case of her career thus far. She may have more. Does anybody in the chat want to hear closing by Melissa Albin? It is a little bit lengthy. It's about, I'd have to speed it up. It's like about, I can't. It's like 30 minutes. So we don't have the time. But somebody in the chat said that they didn't like the way the defense attorney, the female defense attorney, because there was a statement by one of the district attorneys, then there was the statement, closing arguments by the defense, the male defense attorney, and then the female defense attorney, and then the DA came back. Albin came back and had the last word. So it was interesting. One of the DAs had opening, closing arguments, first shot. Then the two defense attorneys had shot after shot, and then Albin came back. Do you folks want to hear it? Stephanie's agreeing with you. There's never any closure. You just deal and get up every day and move. Yeah,
you got to move forward. You got to move forward.
Yeah. Christine saying she agrees with Ed. There's no such thing as closure. And in such a brutal crime like this, and don't forget, the families stayed in the courtroom for the most part and saw the crime scene photos. And Ed, you processed over 2,500 plus crime scenes in your time. Crime scene photos like this, decedents inside a car for many days, 5 days, arguably. Those bodies sat there in the Texas, got cold at night, got warm during the day for 5 days. Those photos were not pleasant to see, and those photos wouldn't be pleasant to see if it was at any time. But the family saw those, and they were presented by the medical examiner. And the testimony from the medical examiner, as you said, we didn't have it in its entirety, and it didn't seem like the coverage covered everything that she probably went through in this in her testimony. But it had to be brutal to see those photos, Ed.
Oh yeah, what 100%. And I'm the guy that takes the photos. So I've seen the worst of humanity in these crime scenes. And just when you think, you've seen it all, someone outdoes the last horrific thing you just saw. And so it's amazing. I've said this before on previous shows, folks, about our mental health. Okay. I was in the crime scene unit for 15 years. Okay. And in those 15 years, 2,700 crime scenes processed, and the majority of them, I dealt with death. Okay. And it was only after 9/11 did someone in the police department say, you know what, we should get all the people that worked at the 9/11 sites and put them through our psychological services to check on them. And so I had to sit down with a psychologist, and had to be evaluated. I had to talk with them, and not that we were retested or anything like that, like a Minnesota multi-phase exam that we took when we came on the job to see if we were sane. But no, just to sit down with them, have a conversation, and go back and forth. And I got to tell you, I told the psychologist, how many death scenes do you think I processed in 15 years in the New York City Police Department? And how many bodies do you think I've seen? How many dismemberments? How many stab wounds? How many gunshot wounds do you think I've seen? Okay. How many strangulations, manual strangulations? How many hangings do you think I've been to? And I said, I think you should be doing this on a regular basis for people like myself in the crime scene unit, or the homicide squad, or the sex crime squad, or the squad in general, the precinct squad detectives. and that see this, maybe every couple of years, bring us in, talk to us, see how we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. It shouldn't be after one horrific incident like 9/11. Okay. That you decide to do this. Now, there were a lot of lessons learned from Oklahoma City and from the bombing there and what happened in the emergency response community, because there were a lot of suicides in the emergency response community after that incident from those that worked and responded and to this horrific bombing there and all those dead children from the daycare and so forth. Okay. So yeah, that word got out to all the emergency responders that, you need to be taking a closer look at your people after, horrific incidents like this. But it shouldn't just be horrific incidents, major disasters. It should be something done on an ongoing basis. Every couple of years or so, bring the people in, rotate them in and see how everybody's doing.
Yeah. Based on, the profession and what people do see, just even regular patrolmen responding from call to call nightly, they see a lot of stuff. And I've seen, to add to what you're saying, I've seen a lot of death and destruction just being on patrol for 6-7 years in Brownsville and East New York, Brooklyn. We had over 350 murders in the area that my command encompassed in 1991. So
1991, we had 2,100 homicides.
Right.
Most of it between the 7.5 and the 3.4 in Washington Heights, all drug related, crack wars. But when I train my crime scene investigators, I touch on this because I wanted them to know. I said, look, when we're born, God gives us a backpack. And over the years of our life, that backpack fills up with a lot of stuff. And there's going to come a point where you can't carry that backpack anymore.
Yeah.
And there's no shame. There's no shame in seeking help, because that was the big thing with the emergency response community is there's some kind of shame with people who reach out and seek help with what they're dealing with. Okay. And there is no shame. This doesn't mean you're less of a cop or you're less of a fireman or an EMT or whatever the case may be, or you're less of a soldier or a Marine, an airman or a Coast Guardsman. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means every once in a while you need to relieve some of that weight, and there's nothing wrong with getting help.
Yeah, 100%, Ed. I wholeheartedly agree. This is the female defense attorney. We'll listen to a little bit of it. I didn't hear any of it because I chose to skip over it because I really didn't care what the defense was saying. We know that the defense is going to say that there was no DNA, that there was no fingerprints, that there was no video evidence, that Matthew Guerra was selling drugs, and that Savannah, the baby's mom, his girlfriend, was with him and selling drugs with him, and all of this nasty shit that you're going to hear from both the male and the female defense attorney. Look, defense attorneys have a job to do, and that's to defend their client. So I won't be surprised if we hear something bad from this woman. People are already saying it in the chat. She spoke very badly about Matthew Guerra, and I don't know if she spoke about Savannah. But at the end of the day, that's their job is to let the jury know that that their client is also some type of angel. And let's listen to what she had to say, just a little bit, not a lot. Let's just listen to a little bit of this.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Preciado is not guilty, and you heard all this evidence that points that way. Let's just start that. Normally I don't read stuff because I like to just talk. But I was questioning all these witnesses, particularly because of the evidence that they had in the case. And I wanted to make sure that when they were presenting their evidence, that I would elicit from these experts and these investigators and these detectives as to what exactly they did have in the case. Because we wrote a list, and I wrote a list here. So there is no eyewitness. There's no one here that is an eyewitness to this case. No one. There's no video. There's never a video anywhere inside that vehicle. There's no GoPros. There's no hidden video anywhere that shows what happened. There's no gunshot residue. And you heard Ms. Vachon testify that that gunshot residue can stay. There's no DNA. And on almost every TV show that I watch and almost every case we get, there's always some kind of DNA, and the DNA will do you in. There is no DNA to show that Chris was part of this transaction. There was a transaction for the sale of drugs.
Can you stop it? Can you stop it?
There's no.
Okay, so there's no DNA. Okay, no one said there's no DNA. They just said they didn't find any DNA. That doesn't mean it wasn't there. And okay, Ms. Defense Attorney, how do you explain your client driving the decedent's vehicle to meet his parents, okay, to help cover up this crime? So
I think this didn't help her client. I think this hurt her client, and it helped to provide the jury to get to that to their conviction in less than 2 hours.
Not a transaction in terms of him going in and being present in all of this thing. And I want you to look at those reports because you're going to get all that evidence when you go back to the back. There's no blood evidence pointing to Christopher. There have some ballistics, but no one can tell you who had their finger on the trigger. There's no trace evidence. There's no
again, stop it. Yeah, they had ballistics. It was the defendant's mother's gun. How did the victim get the defendant's gun? Because according to the defendant,
he wrestled with Matthew with his gun.
Matthew had the gun. It was his gun, Matthew's gun.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
This woman is a clown, and this is great. I didn't listen to it, but I'm glad we did.
And there's no blood splatter evidence.
Spatter.
There's a lot of interpretation.
She said spatter.
She said splatter. Smack her in the back of the head.
Oh my God. Got to go back.
There is no DNA to show that Chris was part of this transaction. There was a transaction for the sale of drugs, marijuana, but they're not a transaction in terms of him going in and being present in all of this thing. And I want you to look at those reports because you're going to get all that evidence when you go back to the back. There's no blood evidence pointing to Christopher. There have some ballistics, but no one can tell you who had their finger on the trigger. There's no trace evidence. There's no fingerprint evidence. And there's no blood splatter evidence.
Splatter.
What we have is a lot of interpretations, but not a lot of actual physical evidence for y'all to take back. In my great state of Texas, you are allowed to defend yourself. You're allowed to defend yourself.
Ed, that guy had your hat on, by the way.
That's why I live here. I
My
don't live
hat's
in
from
California
Texas.
where they have all these rules and stuff on guns. If someone's attacking me, I'm allowed to defend myself. And every one of y'all here are as well.
Yeah.
When we narrow this case down, though, it seems like there's a real lot of bad parenting going on here. Christopher is this 19-year-old stoner gamer who's sitting there. When they picked up his possessions from his room, he has a sweatshirt that says "Virginity Rocks." It's in the pictures. Can't find it right now, but they showed it to you all. This is the kind of guy that they're saying is a stone-cold executioner, to use Miss Albin's word when she started this case, that these people were executed.
They were.
They're saying that guy is an executioner.
He shot them in the back of the head.
Close contact, back of the head, from the back seat. They probably didn't even see it coming. Well, she may have.
Shit.
Showed you pictures at the very beginning of Matthew holding a gun. When you look through those Instagrams, which there's a lot of stuff to look through. There's
She's referring to his social media. He did have pictures of him holding guns on his social media. I remember.
Yeah, guns, money. Yeah.
I saw it earlier. In
Jewelry.
Yep.
picture of Matthew holding a gun. Matthew holding a long arm. Matthew holding an extended clip. When I was a young prosecutor, I put that kind of guy in jail. And now here, we're calling him a great guy, a family man. He was going to have a baby the next day. They showed you video of Matthew walking in his apartment complex, looking all cool with his little uniform on or whatever he was wearing. And he's happy as a clam.
He was wearing a tracksuit. His uniform?
Because he just made 2 drug deals on video right in front of God and everyone. He's just walking around like, hey, more money. I don't got to pay taxes on this money. IRS don't even know that I'm making cash.
Subject to facts on evidence, Your Honor. It's the city.
You can infer from looking at that video what he's doing. The Mercedes-Benz, that I'm sure did not live at that apartment complex, and the Toyota, and he's walking out there and then he's walking back in to go pick up his pregnant girlfriend and take her to another drug deal. That's what he's doing. But they want to portray him as this really great family man, this guy who's going to have a baby the next day.
I don't
Parenting
think
going wrong?
I don't think that he was being portrayed that way as a great guy and family guy. Look, in my career, in those 2,700 crime scenes, most of the victims were not innocent victims.
Yeah.
You know, and most of their lifestyles is what led to me meeting them. Okay, but they don't deserve this. They don't deserve to be killed like this. They don't deserve that. And you know, I'm not casting judgment on them. I'm investigating the crime now to determine who did this, okay, to get them off the street so they don't do it to anybody else.
Thank you. But in defense to the district attorney, Melissa Albin, in the beginning, in her opening, I watched the full opening, and let me know in the chat if you watched the full opening statements. She immediately said that Matthew Guerra and Savannah Soto made bad decisions. They did, she said exact words, they did things that we would not agree are the right things. But everybody makes mistakes. Everybody does things that they regret when they're younger. Remember, Savannah was 18 years old when she was executed. Matthew was 22. Okay. Christopher Preciado, the murderer, was 19 years old. So these are all young teenagers. And Matthew was the only one that was, a little bit older, 22. So at the end of the day, the prosecutor said in her opening statement that they were not living their lives right. And she said, well, I'll be the first to tell you that. But they did not deserve to be executed for what they were doing.
No, what? I mean, look, what was the MO? What was he executed for? What were they killed for? Money, marijuana, and jewelry. To buy car parts?
Yeah.
Okay. And obviously the car parts were bought after the family helped him hide the bodies.
I've had enough of this woman. So let's fast forward.
I'm done with her.
Let's listen to Melissa, just a little bit of hers, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll take some questions.
About 25, 50 minutes.
Oh.
All right. 25,
Thank you.
45 minutes.
May I please report?
Yes, ma'am.
Opposing counsel, members of the jury. When we started this trial, I introduced you to Savannah Soto and Matthew Guerra and their baby Fabian. And we did not shy away from the fact that Matthew dealt drugs to make money. We were not hiding from that. We didn't stand up here and try to paint them as these angelic people who never made mistakes. I think I actually said, you're going to hear they made mistakes. Those were my words. And those you have heard. But that doesn't mean that they deserve what happened to them. That does not justify the execution that this man perpetrated on them. It doesn't. We all make mistakes. They've made some. He's made some. We've all made some. It does not justify what happened. Now, the defense wanted to take apart our case because Mr. Esparza said we brought you filler witnesses. If we hadn't brought them to you, they would have been up here yelling, where are all those witnesses? Why didn't they bring them? We had to set the stage. We had to tell you the story of how this happened. And we brought you over 30 witnesses so that you could see we're not hiding anything. We are giving you everything that we've got, everything that we can. Video, pictures, forensics, GPS, a murder weapon, social media. We have given you so much evidence over the last week and a half so that we could paint you a picture of what happened in that car. Because I think it's interesting that both defense counsels say, we don't know what happened in that car when their client gave a statement. So essentially their client isn't telling the truth because they don't even know what happened in that car. But I agree with them there because it's very clear that the statement that their client gave was a lie. It was a lie after a lie after a lie.
I got to tell you, Ed, she's hopped up. This is the first time I'm watching this, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
can tell she's pissed, and she's
very passionate.
Very passionate. And kudos to her because that closing right there. And this is the last word. She did a great job.
Yeah, and remember, folks, you know, opening statements and closing statements cannot be considered evidence by the jury.
Correct.
They don't get a transcript of these statements, okay? They have to base their decision of not guilty or guilty from the evidence that was presented during the case in chief.
And we're going to talk about that. But with all of that evidence that we have brought you, you can see Christopher is not this virginity rocks innocent guy that they want you to think he is. He is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Is that audio? All right. Technical difficulties as usual.
She just said technical difficulties as usual.
We all know that is an act. You know that because of everything that we proved to you he did and he said in between the days that he murdered all three of them and then was caught by the police. And there's no evidence in the record that Ramon told him not to call the cops. There's no evidence of that. All we know is that he didn't and his parents helped him. That's what we know.
She's pointing to that front row where the parents are.
Yep.
But we also know from all of the evidence, Matthew wasn't afraid of Chris. Look at these text messages right before he goes to meet him. They're friendly. He calls him fam. Christopher says, yo, what's up? There is no agitation on the part of Matthew. Like Christopher wanted the detective to think. He said agitated 17 times. There was none of that. There was an agreement to meet because Chris had asked for $620 worth of something, which is much, much more than he told the detective he normally gets. Why do you think that is? And why do you think we didn't find it in the car? Mr. Esparza talked about intent. Well, we talked about that in jury selection. We told you there is no way for us to take a brain scan and give you the visual of what someone is intending. Intent can be inferred. And that is why we brought you piece after piece after piece after piece of evidence. So you had more than enough to get to the conclusion of what actually happened that night. Just like that puzzle piece or that puzzle that I showed you in jury selection. You don't need every single piece of the puzzle to be able to see what it is. And I mean, ladies and gentlemen, with all due respect to defense counsel, we have filled in that puzzle so many ways. So many ways. We've brought you evidence that we don't normally have to give you as little question about what happened that night. And these text messages prove.
This is a great comment right here. Why didn't they call 911 to help if this was in self-defense and he was fighting for his life, right?
Mm-hmm. 100%.
I mean, no 911 call. And yeah, Jose Manuel says she's effing badass. Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
Matthew was not agitated. Matthew was not scared. Matthew was perfectly fine. Chris was the one. He was the one on pins and needles waiting for them to arrive because these text messages show he's asking him, where are you at? This update. And the whole time he's texting him, he's outside pacing with his hand on his forehead. Where are they? Walking up and down the driveway. Go back and watch the videos. There's multiple clips of this.
Waiting for him.
Because the detectives did their jobs. They got almost 200,000 videos from that home that Detective Goodwin watched.
Did she say 200,000?
That's what she said.
Wow. What kind of DVR holds 200,000 videos?
Painstakingly, so he could give you a clear understanding of what happened. And that man is pacing up and down, waiting for them to arrive. He is anxious and he is nervous because he knows what's in his hand and he knows what he is about to do.
Got the gun.
But Savannah and Matt didn't. They had no idea what they were walking into. Because to Matt, Chris was nothing more than a sheep. He didn't see him as a threat. He didn't know he was a wolf underneath. And they walked into an ambush. But you know that he went unafraid because he was unarmed. He did not have a gun. And Mr. Esparza wanted to conveniently forget the fact that the gun that killed these three people was Ramon's. Unless you want to believe by some crazy twist of fate, in the 25 years the gun had been with that man, he lost it, somehow wound up in the hands of one of Chris's friends, and then Chris lied when he told the detective, I didn't touch the gun, I didn't take the gun, I don't know anything about the gun. And it wound up in the mom's locked closet. And yeah, that was weird. She couldn't find the keys to her own room until the detective said, we're gonna take it off the hinges if you don't let us in. Oh, okay, I know where they are. This is not rocket science. It is common sense, like Ross said. You don't check your common sense at the door. You look at the totality of the circumstances and you put it all together and you can see what actually happened. So you know, because that car was locked when we found them and that there was no gun in that car, you know Matthew was unarmed. What we did find in that car were some bullets, projectiles, and the only gun that they came back to was Ramon's. And yeah, we found Alicia.
I believe it came out in the trial, Ed, that the gun was Ramon's first wife's. And I think that's Alicia who she's referring to. So the gun, technically, we were all led to believe that it was the mom's, Myrta's gun, but it was, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, it was Ramon's first wife's gun that she reported missing or that was somehow lost, and he took it and had it in his home. So correct me if I'm wrong, folks. I think that's what I recall reading.
Yeah, because we thought you deserved to know what we do. That Matthew did not bring that gun. We do. That Matthew did not bring that gun. Matthew did not show up to a drug deal with the intention of robbing anybody. And not only do we know the gun that we found in the home belonged to the Preciado family, we know it's the murder weapon. And the math works also. Because if you remember, there were 2 magazines with the gun. One of them had 5 bullets, full. The other one had 2. So there were 3 missing. a bullet through Matthew's head, which is in the headliner, a bullet that was stuck in Savannah's head, and then a loose bullet underneath Matthew's body. That makes 5. We got 1 shell casing for whichever bullet that hit either Matthew or Savannah, we don't know. And 1 casing is gone. But I bet we can all guess where it went.
Objection to facts not in evidence, Your Honor. Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen, you recall the evidence from the witness stand.
So how else do we know Matthew went to that encounter unarmed? Chris told you. He told everybody. He told the world. Matthew got killed without a gun. They low-key caught Flacco lacking. He was always strapped. He always had a gun. So why was it different this time? And he posted that December 27th at about 4 a.m. I converted it. So that's 12 hours after their bodies are found, before the press release goes out on the 28th, before much time for any reporting has passed. He knows a whole lot about what happened to Matthew. And he's bragging. When he's making these posts,
I know what Ed's Googling right now.
Yes.
nobody knows except for Christopher
I'm telling you, I read it.
Yeah.
and his parents. Nobody knows what he did. So he can brag about it and talk about it and get away with it in his head. But being a wolf in sheep's clothing is not enough for him. He wants to be a wolf in wolf's.
But Alicia is where it was her gun that he took from her, his ex-girlfriend. So again, reporting in the media was always saying it was Murta's gun. Maybe after Ramon took it from Alicia, Murta took possession of it, but really it came back. She said, we tracked down and traced down back to Alicia. And I did read a whole article about it.
Clothing. And you know that from these posts. He told the detective, I didn't usually like to get drugs from Matthew because he posted all these scary pictures of himself holding guns. Exhibit A. Does anybody recognize that doll?
All right, listen, this goes on for a long time. I'm going to link this in the description. I want to go to the chat quick for 5 minutes, Ed, and take any questions. Listen, as far as we're concerned here, justice was served today in Bexar County. Although this was not a perfect trial, and we have questions about how everything went down. But at the end of the day, a jury of his peers found him guilty of all charges, all 3 capital murder charges. He is now sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. There will be all of these, processes that will go through with his attorneys. And they've already said that he's going to fight these charges, and he has that legal right. It's afforded to everybody, Ed. I'll take questions, hashtag Ed, hashtag DutyRon, in regards to this. Ed, your thoughts?
Yes, I believe justice was served. I believe they could have served the San Antonio, Bexar County better had they sought the death penalty. But as you heard from the assistant district attorney here, that they were worried about appellate issues. So they didn't. A decision was made by her supervisors not to go for the death penalty. That said, the parents are going to be, I believe, the father first, and then the mother will be re-indicted and brought up, and they will face their court appearances, and hopefully they'll get their justice that they deserve as well.
Amen to that. And I'm looking forward to that. At Ford Dread, thank you for the 5. He says the woman defense attorney really rubbed me the wrong way with her, the way in her closing she talked so nasty about both Matthew and Savannah. So she, in fact, did speak badly about Savannah. That's, that's a low blow. The families are in the audience, and it really doesn't help her client. As you see, he was found guilty on all the charges. Tara, thank you for being a member for 27 months. She says, thank you for covering this. No one else has. I'll tell you the reason nobody's covering it. A, there's no news coverage, or very little coming out of San Antonio. There's a handful of stations locally, but it's not on World News Tonight with David Muir like other cases are being blasted all over the place. And most people on YouTube see that and then say, you know what, what's the upside to me covering it? But Ed and I stay true to what we do, and when cases come to full circle, we cover them. Just like Robert Brooks, who was brutally murdered in New York State Corrections at the Marcy Correctional Facility. Nobody was covering that. Nobody wanted to touch that with a 10-foot pole. Guess what? This man right here, my partner in crime, Ed Wallace, and myself, we covered it from beginning to end, and we never stopped with it. We did the same thing with this case, albeit we missed some of the days this week. I had some medical appointments. Ed was busy doing some stuff. So my 35th wedding anniversary, I'm sure that my wife wouldn't appreciate it if I did some coverage on it on that day. But yeah, that's the reason. That's why no one was covering it. Here's the super chat from A to B. Thank you for that. We're going to be probably on that tomorrow. Rex Urban. Sharon Creates, been a member for over 43 months. She says, love and good health to Ron and Ed. Thank you for covering this. Well, thank you. All right. I didn't see any questions in the chat, although I was trying to pay attention to some of these super chats. Here's Ben McCoy saying, Ron and Ed, thanks for the coverage. Justice was served. Amen to that. Ed, thank you for talking about law enforcement officers, firefighters, EMTs needing counseling. I am still in counseling for an incident that happened 2 years ago.
Okay. And, I failed to say the first receivers, the emergency rooms, the hospitals, the nurses, the doctors, the PAs, all of those as well.
Anna Karen, amen to that, Ed. They see a lot of trauma. Anna Karen Flores, 62. Ron, I was in the court today listening to the closing statements, and the defense attorney just said the worst things and basically victim blame. It's a bad look, and that's going to be on their record. But that's unfortunately what defense attorneys do. They get down and dirty, and that's what it's all about. Princess Mitch, thank you for sticking it here. I thought you said you were going to watch the replay. Thank you to you and Rob for your continued support over the years. You've been here with us since the beginning. So thank you, Princess Mitch, for the anniversary wishes. I'm watching you guys from work live. Your show is the best ever. Thank you. Thank you, Elena Sanchez. Much appreciated. Thank you. Crystal Stars says, I appreciate you all covering this, DutyRon and Ed. Thank you so very much. Guys, if you can, please hit the thumbs up for us real quick. Like and subscribe. If you're not yet subscribed, let us know where you're watching, city, state, or country. And if you're new, please let us know. We don't get you in the live chat. We will certainly get you in the comment section. We do what a lot of other creators don't like to do, and is called answering the comments. And when you leave a comment for Ed and myself, we get we get to a high percentage of these comments, right, Ed?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do the best that we can, and we answer as many. And sometimes I'm answering comments from 3 months ago, but I answer them. So thank you to everybody that's here, and thank you to everyone for hanging out with us and sticking with us. This has been extended coverage of the Christopher Preciado capital murder trial. Guilty on all charges of the murders of Savannah Soto, baby Fabian, and Matthew Guerra. Thank you to all of the replay viewers, the super chatters, the folks who send us buy me cups of coffee and support us through Patreon. We love you guys, we respect you, and we thank you. And a special shout out to the Mod Squad. You guys are the best. We love you, and we appreciate you. Ed, final words.
Wow, I was starting to hear the music playing, Ron. I was waiting for the hook to come out and take you off the stage.
Thank you.
No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. That said, folks, thank you. We know you can get your true crime fix anywhere you like on the internet. And it's an honor to have you here with us and to share your precious time with us and listen to us jabber. That said, folks, I want you to have a great night or day or evening or whatever it is where you are. And always stay safe, stay prepared, and watch your six.
And a special shout out and prayers and strength go out to the victims' families, the Guerra and the Soto family, and the rest of the community there. We send you all of our best and lots of prayers and lots of love. Thank you for joining. We'll see you on the next one. Look out for a special live stream tomorrow as it pertains to Rex Sherman, the Long Island serial killer. There's some breaking news in that story, and we'll be on it. Good night from New York.